I've held the view for a very long time that China is a big problem, is a huge bubble around credit and real estate, and we're starting to see with Evergrande a situation that is, in my opinion, extraordinarily difficult, but is nothing new. I mean, the Chinese government has been following a policy, as we all know, driven by central planning and control. This is a bit of a double-edged sword. You know, you can think about, you know, the one-child policy and what that meant. Of course, in the short term, you have more resources, etc. It creates a problem with demographics and the pyramid, which is down the road. You can then actually control your exchange rate and impose pegs, but there are things that happen. You know, we're going to have a sort of pressure building through rate differentials, inflation, misallocation, black market, etc. You can also plan growth, you know, to the second decimal point, and this year we're going to grow at 8.88, the lucky number, and you're going to achieve that, because if those targets are not achieved, then things happen. So this creates, you know, misallocation. You might do a roundabout you didn't need to do, and obviously you have all this setup where monetary policy and credit are mixed, where the central bank lends to the banks, and the banks transmit that immediately through all these projects, and then multiple other ways of unregulated credit, which effectively are a double-edged sword. You have the illusion of control. It gives the perception of being this giant that has everything in control, but it's a lot more fragile in my opinion. And I use the example of a skyscraper. You know, you could think of the most resistant skyscrapers in Tokyo are almost like rubber. If you had skyscrapers made out of concrete, you know, they would fall with very, very small things. So that perception of rigidity could, under certain circumstances, be a fragility, and I think that's the case in China. But there are many more things happening. Again, this is a multi-year project. The opinion here is very contrasted. You have extraordinarily smart people arguing the exact opposite view. I just want to lay my case. But I think China, beyond the central planning, has a bunch of kind of wars being played. You know, we have trade wars with subsidies, dumping, tariffs, a model that has relied on for a long time on exports, and has tried to change that model, but it's wishful thinking. You know, you perhaps introduce that idea, and then every crisis that comes, you resort to the same measures. We have currency wars, you know, with currency controls, and there are lots of things that give in the system. We have China trying to position itself for the reserve currency versus the US dollar, which kind of explains in some way the incredible stability of the currency that is oblivious of anything that is happening. It's almost too stable, I would argue, and it's 100%, I think, managed. And this is something that could give in a big way. Geopolitics, thanks God, there's still not real wars, but we've seen what happened in Hong Kong. We've seen increasing tensions in Taiwan, and a lot of provocations. We see the war on technology, obviously a big enemy to the Chinese central government, because you want to control people in this big brother. So effectively a bit of the development of technology in the case of China has created further control rather than freedom. And we've seen many things like Bitcoin being prohibited lately in an economy where again, its technology is something that the government really wants to control, and it has gone for the Alibabas and other companies which have throughout the year had a massive sell-off. We see culturally, I think this is very important, the Xi moving for modern socialism, and it's kind of a war on billionaires. And I take a very simplistic view. Is culturally if you're a child, which superhero do you want to be? Do you want to be Superman or Jack Ma or Xi? And I think President Xi has this ambition of the model, and he's literally crashing this idea of capitalism. Is served well for a while, but it's actually doing it in a way that it's hard to justify given the damage that the companies are taking. But it's part of the plan, it's part of the control, and part of the mission here, the cultural mission. So really quite a phenomenal setup. The Cold War arguably is here, the war over the internet, etc. And basically some of these rigidities of the system, in my opinion, something gives in. So if you have a setup where you're controlling the currency and there's a crisis, and you print effectively your way out of this problem by lending more money, etc. That money that is being lent is being printed. You create this effectively pool of money, this liquidity that cannot exit, and of course, like water, is going to flow. It's going to flow into things like infrastructure, into real estate, and this is the reason why China has this ginormous bubble, where it's a matter of time that it exploded, simply because you take the prices to a level where people can just not afford them. And I think the danger here is, again, we've had this ambition to create this growth through infrastructure and others, and we're talking about a part of the economic is 30% of the Chinese GDP. So a crisis in real estate in China has phenomenal implications for many things, but it's really the result of these degrees of rigidity, where the degree of freedom has been effectively the creation of inflation and bubbles. And as we'll see in a minute, in my opinion, the ultimate degree of freedom is a much weaker yuan, which is the currency, which is one of our base cases, something that has not materialized. It has hurt our performance, but we think that insurance could potentially be very valuable, and it's a tail risk to consider. Basically, China, when in trouble, print, lend, subsidize, warranty people, bail out, and this is a very complex setup of seemingly very controlled things, but all much more fragile, in my opinion.